Just the leg and greetings to all my dear students. Well, for today's video lesson, I'll be continuing further. I hope you remember from the last week we had started a new chapter that was conditional and iterative statements. So in which we have learned these important terms or terminologies. For example, the statement flow control. There were three categories. The first one is sequence, selection, and iteration. So we have primarily focused on the second programming construct, that is selection. And then in the selection category of programming constructs, there are a couple of statements which we have learned already. The first one is the if statement and the second one is if-else statement. So these are the programs which we have learned during the last week. So we'll continue further. So today the main topic will be if-elif statement, right? So just to give you a brief introduction on if-elif statement. You know how if works. If the condition or the test evaluates to true, the statement associated with if will be executed, otherwise it just skips and continues. And then in the if-else, if the statement evaluates to true, the body of if will be executed, otherwise the body or the statement associated with else will be executed, right? So if you take a closer look at if-else, okay, I'm saying if-else, you don't have any condition for else. You just have the condition for if it evaluates to true, the statement of if will be executed, otherwise the statement associated with else will be executed. But at times there could be a situation where we need to associate certain test condition with else, right? So that we could have multiple conditions or multiple tests, right? So in order to associate certain test or condition with else, we have another variation of conditional statements in the form of if-elif, right? So from the name itself, you could get some rough idea. Look at this. You have if in Tibetan means kisi, you know, there should be a condition or there should be a question. And then if the statement evaluates to false, normally we just have else, but this time we have elif. Okay, so we are having yet another statement or condition or test associated with the else, right? So this kind of situation demands the usage of if and if statement, right? So we'll try to implement, some programs in order to understand the usage of if-else statement, right? For example, if you want to test whether a given number is positive, negative, or zero. Zero is neither positive nor negative, right? So you have two possible conditions or tests. It's not that if the number is positive, okay, then it has to be negative. If this is the case, then we could have it done with just if-else. But here, if the number is greater than zero, it could be zero or it could be negative number, right? So this is the kind of situation where we have to use the if-elif statement. Let's look at a simple program. Let's say I have a variable called num, and then I'll have a predefined value. I'll just increase the, okay, well, this will be better. Okay, now let's say I have a variable with a value of, say, 8, right? And then I come up with a program. If num is greater than 0, then I have print a positive number, right? It's a positive number, right? So I press enter, and then I need to move the cursor to the extreme left because I'm done and dusted with the statements of if. This is important, right? So come back, and then it shouldn't be like this, because I still have one more condition. I need to check out whether the given number or the specified number is 0 or negative number. That's when the if-elif statement comes into the picture, right? So instead of else, you should write elif, right? Elif number is equal to 0, right? Then I want to print, okay, a message. It's a 0, right? And then press enter, and then again come back to the extreme left. So if the number is greater than 0, it's a positive number. If it's equal to 0, I would like to print 0. Now we are just left with only one option. It has to be negative, right? So for which you don't have to write elif, rather you can just type else and then print the message, right? And which has to be, it's a negative number, alright? So this is a very simple example which will help us to understand the working of if-elif, right? So if you want to have a test or a condition in the else, right, then we have to use the elif, right? So you could understand why are we using if-elif instead of if-else, because you have two tests or two conditions to be checked. If the decision is such that either this has to happen or that has to happen, then it means, for example, in the case of even number or the odd number, just use if-else. If it's even number, it has to be, the numbers which should be divisible by 2. If it's not, it has to be odd. There are no other ways, right? So in this kind of situation, we have to use if-else. Otherwise, if you have two conditions or more than two conditions, then you have to go for if-elif statement, right? So this is the first example. Now let's look at another example, right? Let's say, I'll get rid of this. Okay, let's say I want to check for a percentage, right? I want to check for a percentage, and then I want to print whether you are in distinction category or first division or second division, right? So again, this is yet another simple example for the if-elif statement. Now this time we have two conditions. Rather, we have three important parts. Either it has to be distinction or first division or the second division, right? So it should be pretty simple, right? So if percent is greater or equal to 75, right? So then, I want to print the message of distinction, right? So it's pretty clear. And then I come here and I have elif percent is greater or equal to 60, okay? I want to print a message of first division, right? And then finally, I just have, I don't have any more condition, then it has to be else, and then print a message of second division, alright? So I forgot to run the earlier program, never mind. Now let's say if I run this, what happens is I get the message of distinction, right? So the value of percent is equal to 75. This condition evaluates to true. If this condition is true, what happens is the statement of if will be executed. Very simple, right? So if the first condition is true, the rest of the conditions will be ignored. It's like this. I want to see A or B or C. If A turns in, that should be the end of the program. I could overlook B and C. So in the if-elif block, if the condition evaluates to true, be it first, second or third, the moment one of these conditions evaluates to true, the rest of the conditions will be ignored, right? Now let's say I have 65, alright? I have 65 and I run the program and then I give first division as the output. So it first checks the first condition. 65 greater or equal to 75, the condition becomes false. If the condition becomes false, this particular statement will be skipped or ignored, and then it checks the next condition, right? So when you come here, we have to understand like this. If the condition is false, then we come here. Okay? So what do you mean when we say this condition is false? This condition is false means the number is not greater or equal to 75. Okay? So when we come here, it's decided or understood that the percent is not greater or equal to 75, which means it is now less than 75, right? It is less than 75, and then it checks this. If the percent is greater or equal to 60, in which case it is 65, right? Then condition becomes true. Okay? If the condition is true, this statement will be executed. Hence, we get the output of first division, and then this will be ignored, right? So, if this condition evaluates to true, this statement will be executed. If it is false, we look for the next condition or the test. But when we come here, what it means is this condition is false. If this condition is false, the percent is not greater or equal to 75. It means it is less than 75. And if it's true, greater or equal to 60, less than 75, which means the percentage falls in the first division category. Okay? So finally, we'll just check for the third possibility. Let's say we have 45, right? So when I run this, I'll get the second division, which means this condition is false, percent being 45. Again, this is false, and then the only statement that has to be executed is else. Okay? If both the conditions evaluate to false, then this statement has to be executed, right? So this is how you should understand the working of if-else statement. As of now, looking at these two examples, I just kept the number of conditions to 2, but in real life application or the bigger programs, you may end up with even more. Okay, I'll show you another program. Okay, now let's go and check the nested if. All right, so I hope you have understood the working of if-else. It's pretty simple, right? Now, what is the meaning of nested if? Let's understand the meaning of nest in general. I'm sure you must have seen the bird's nest, right? You have straws which are enclosed, within one another, right? So something which is a part of another thing, that is actually referred to as nested. When you pack a certain thing in another bigger packet, that is referred to as the nested, right? So in nested if statement, now it's a little weird. I'm using the combination of the English if as well as programming if. I just showed you a couple of examples, right? Sometimes there could be if as a part of the outer if. Okay? I think it's better to go back to this example, right? At times, the program could become pretty complex. We may have if statement as a body of if. As of now, the body of this if is print distinction, right? But at times, as per the demand of the program, you may have another if as the body of if. Or at times, you can have if as a body of elif. And then in certain situations, you can have if as a body of else. So basically, there are 3 variations of nested if. Nested if means, like I said, if you have one if as a part of another if or an outer if, that is nothing but nested if. So basically, you have 3 versions. The first one is if you have if as a body of if, or if as a body of elif, or if as a body of else. Right? So in order to understand this, again, let's look at a couple of examples. Now the question is, some of you may feel, why do we need it? Now this is the beginning days of the programming, right? So I'm just going to tell you how to use this, okay? But when to use it, you'll get the complete picture once you are familiar with quite a number of programs in the coming days, right? So we'll just stick to the intro part. Now let's check the first program, right? The first program is reads two numbers and an arithmetic operator and displays the computed result, right? So let's keep the number of arithmetic operators to 4. Addition, subtraction, division, and then we have the multiplication, right? So based on the choice of operator, the program either needs to print the sum, difference, product, or the quotient, right? So understandably, we now have like 4 tests or 4 conditions, right? So automatically we'll have to use the if-elif, right? So let's start. Now let's say you have 2 numbers, you have A, alright, and then let's say A is equal to 10, okay, and then B is equal to 5, right? So we'll not have the input statement. Now that you know how to use the int input statement to fetch the input from the user, we'll have the predefined values in order to save the time, right? Or you could also do it like this, okay? A, B equals 10, and then you have the 5. We have learned this, right? These values on the right hand side will be assigned respectively to the variable names which appear on the left hand side, alright? And then let's read in the operator, okay? Operator, or we'll just have OP equals input. Now we'll have to use this. Enter the operator, okay? The possible operators are plus, minus, into, and division, right? Now we'll have to check whether the operator is plus, minus, division, and multiplication. So how do you do this? If OP or operator is equal to plus sign, right? Then the result is equal to A plus B. Okay, very simple. Now this time the condition is based on equality. The earlier the condition was based on relational operator. In fact, greater or less than, right? So this time everything is based on equality operator. And then come back. If you have multiple statements as the body of F, continue, retaining the indentation. Otherwise, if you want to start another F, you need to come back. If, elif, or else, whatever it is. So you have elif, OP is equal to minus sign, right? So if the OP is plus, this statement will be executed. If it's not, it checks for the next operator, okay? And then you have result equal to, you have A minus B, very simple. And then, let's put a little up, okay? And then you have LF, OP is equal to multiplication sign. If the condition is true, then you have result is equal to A multiplied by, A multiplied by B, right? And then finally, not finally, OP is equal to division sign, right? If it's equal to division sign, then result is equal to A divided by B, right? If the operator entered belongs to none of these operators, okay, then the statement of else will be executed, right? So you have else here. So this statement associated with else will be executed if none of the preceding conditions are true. You can understand this, right? So finally, I would like to print a message, or perhaps, okay, this is better. Result is equal to invalid operator, right? Okay, and then finally, I need to print the result, right? Say print, you have A, and then you have OP, okay? And then you have B, and then perhaps I could write equal to, and then you have the result. Okay, so A will have the value of 10, B will have the value of 5, OP will have the value of the chosen operator, be it plus, minus, or multiplication or division, right? So I hope you have understood the program, right? So we'll just run and check. Okay, I'll just go up. Okay, if the operator is plus sign, if I press enter, I get the output of 10 plus 5 is equal to 15, right? So we'll just go up and check, right? Okay, so when I ran the program, I was prompted to enter the operator, and then I entered plus, remember? So the plus character becomes the value of OP, and then the Python interpreter checks the conditions one by one. It checks the first condition, the value of OP is a plus character. Plus character is equal to plus character, the condition is true. If the condition is true, A plus B, 10 plus 15, 10 plus 5, 15 will be assigned to result, right? So if the first condition is true, the rest of the conditions will all be ignored, and the Python interpreter will now execute the final statement, right? So you have the value of A as 10, the value of OP, remember, was plus, and then the value of B was 5. 10 plus B is equal to, the value of result is, remember, you have 15, right? So now let's say I would like to rerun the program and then check for the modulus, right? So if I enter this, guess what should be the output? The output should be invalid operator, okay? So I have not entered an operator, which is a part of if-elif statement, right? So likewise, I'll run the program for the one last time. Say it's multiplication, and then I run this, right? Okay. Okay, I get the output of 10 times 5 is 50, right? So this time, again, what happens here is the value of OP is asterisk. The condition is false. If it's false, it checks for the next condition. So again, this is false. It checks the next. This becomes true. So 10 multiplied by 5 is 50. And then that's when the Python interpreter leaves the if-elif or the nested if-elif, right? And then finally it prints the correct output of 10 times 5 is equal to 50, right? Okay, I hope you have understood the program. Now let's move on to the next program. All right. Okay, first things first, let's read the question properly. You need to understand the question properly. Remember, no ever doctor prescribes the medicine without consulting the patient, right? So the questions are super important. So this time the program reads 3 numbers and prints them in descending order. So you have 3 numbers which needs to be sorted in a descending order. Let's say you have A, B, and then you have C. The numbers are something like this: 5, 4, and 6. Alright? So at the end of the program, I should get the desired output as 6, 5, and 4. Okay? The numbers could be any, but at the end of the successful running of the program, the numbers should be sorted in descending order. Okay? The logic would be something like this. I keep saying this. Before you deal with the program, you need to first think over the logic or the reasoning behind the program. So I'm going to do it like this. I first check whether A is greater than B as well as greater than C. Okay, this will be the piece of logic. I check whether A is greater than B as well as greater than C. If it's true, A is the undisputed max of these 3 numbers. Okay, and then I get a little deeper. I'm now done with the decision regarding the maximum of 3 numbers. I now need to worry about the remaining 2, right? So in that particular body, I now do the comparison between B and C. If B is greater than C, then B has to be the middle value and C will be the minimum value. Okay, once again, the logic will be, I first check whether A is greater than B as well as greater than C. using the AND operator. If the condition evaluates to true, which means A is the maximum value. Now I need to find out whether B or C is the mid or the minimum value. For that, I check whether B is greater than C. If B is greater than C, then B becomes the middle value and C becomes the minimum value. So this is the logic that you need to get it, and then it's just a matter of repetition. So we'll try to write the program. Okay, so let's start. Let's say the first condition, like I said, if A is greater than B and A is greater than C. If the condition is true, when will this condition be true? If both the conditions are true. Okay, when will the condition of F be true is if all the constituents or if all the individual conditions are true, only then the overall condition will be true. Remember, I want to see Tenzin and Sherig, which means I have to see both of them. Okay, so when will I feel true? When will I feel happy? If both turn in, right? So likewise, if both the conditions are true, then the overall condition will be true. If the overall condition evaluates to true, which means A is the maximum value, right? So I now get a little deeper. I now have to decide between the middle value and the minimum value, right? So I have if B is greater than C. If B is greater than C, which means B is the middle value, C is the minimum value, right? So why don't you have the variables lined up like this? Max, min, and then you have the min, right? So A should be the maximum value because the condition, if it's true, A will be assigned to maximum value, right? Now since B is greater than C, B has to be the middle value, right? You have, and then finally you have the C. So if A is greater than B, A is greater than C, then it comes here. If B is greater than C, the statement will be executed, right? So now let's go to the else part. You have else here and then press enter. Be very careful. You could see the level of indentation, right? This if and this else have a same indentation level. They have the same level. This is another level, this is another level, and then you have another level. So this is what is meant by the indentation level. Alright? So from the indentation level you could figure out that this else is associated with this if. So when will this statement, when will A else be executed is if the condition is false. You need to understand just this, the remaining two are just the repetition. So when will this be executed? If this condition is false. If this condition is false, what do you mean? If this condition is false, which means B is not greater than C. If B is not greater than C, which means C is greater than B. If this condition is false, it means B is not greater than C. If B is not greater than C, which means C is greater than B. Okay? So now this time I have statements lined up like this: mid, min, right? And then okay, A will remain as it is. Okay, the fact that this condition was true, A will be the maximum value. Now this time the fact that you are here, which means the condition is false. If the condition is false, C is greater than B. So this is the reason why you have C needs to be assigned to mid, right? And then finally you have B will become the minimum value, right? So all you need to understand is just this, but the program is not yet prepared because I have written the code in such a way that just in case if A is the greatest number, if A is the maximum number, but B could be the maximum number, C could also be the maximum number, in which case the codes are not sufficient, right? So I come here, okay, and then I have L, F. I need to check whether B is the greatest value. Okay, that has to be the next step. So if B is greater than A and B is greater than C. Now you could understand, right? The program is pretty simple. If the condition is true, B will be the maximum value. I now need to do the comparison between A and B. Which one of these two need to be assigned to mid or minimum, right? So for that, again, I have if A is greater than C, okay? And then you have max, you have mid, and then you have min equals B will be the maximum value, and then A will be the mid, and then finally you have C as the minimum value, right? So again, I go to the else part. If the condition evaluates to false, which means C is greater than A, in which case the C should become the value of mid, right? So you have max, you have mid, and then you have min equals, you have B, and then C, and then you have A. Okay? And then finally, we have the codes for the C. Okay? So for that, you could just write else. You don't need to have this particular statement, this particular condition for determining whether C is the biggest or not. If A is not the biggest, if B is not the biggest, then C has to be the biggest, right? So you just have only one option left, which means the else will take care of the only the possible combination, which is C to be the biggest value, right? And then you press enter, and then the fact that you are here, which means the C has been decided as the biggest of these three numbers. Okay? Then I now need to do the comparison between A and B. Right? So you have if A is greater than B. If A is greater than B, which means A will be the mid, B will be the minimum value. Right? So you have max, you have mid, and then you have min equals C, A, and then you have B. Okay? And then I go to the else part. You have max, you have mid, and then you have min equals C, B, and then you have A. Right? So we are done with the program, right? So we'll just finally print the output. So for that, we have the print statement, and then since the numbers are to be sorted in the descending order, it needs to start from max, mid, and then you have min, right? So you have max, will have the greater than sign, right? And then you have the mid, will have the greater than sign, and then finally we'll have the min. Alright? So the program looks pretty good. Okay, now let's run the program and check whether it's giving the right output or not. Okay? Okay, we'll just run this. Okay, there you go. We get the correct output as 654. Look at this. You have the value of A as 5, the value of B as 4, the value of C as 6. So when I ran the program, the output appears to be in a correct order. But at times, you cannot ever say like if the program works for one combination, your program is completely right. You cannot ever say this. Your program is correct only if it works for all the possible combinations. There were some students over the last few years. They say this. So my program is working for this particular piece of combination. So I should get at least a part of the allotted parts. So that's not done. So you need to get the program right for all the combinations. So let's say I change 4 to 7, right? So when I run this, the output should be 7, 6. And then you have 5, right? And then finally I'll make the A the largest, right? So if I change it to 8, I should get the output as 8, 7, 6. Now let's run the program and check. Let's try to understand the program. The value of A is 8, B is 7, C is 6. Look at this. A is greater than B. Okay? 8 is greater than 7. A is greater than C. 8 is greater than 6. This condition is true. This condition is true. Since both the conditions are true, the overall condition is true, which means the A is the biggest number. So if this condition is true, the body of if will be executed. Where is the body? Which statements form the part or the body of the if statements? Look here, you can make out from the indentation. Look at this. From here till here. From here till this particular point, this portion of the program becomes the body of this if. So if this condition is true, the block, this particular block or the body will be executed, right? So again, I now check the value of B. B is 7, C is 6. Is the condition true? The condition is true. If the condition is true, this statement of this if will be executed, alright? So what happens here? A is 8, A is 8. So that will become the value of max. B is 7. 7 will become the value of mid. 6 will become the value of min. Okay? So I'm done. So I got the first condition right. Remember, if the first condition is right, the rest of the statements are ignored or skipped. Okay? And then it goes to the printing statement. It will print the output as 8, 7, 6. Now let's say if I change these two. Let's say I have 6 here and then I have here 7. Okay? Now this time again A is greater than 6, 8 is greater than 7. Okay, this is A, this is B, and this is C. So this condition is true. However, B is not greater than C. B is 6, C is 7. Is this condition true? No. If this condition is false, then this statement of this else will be executed. So what happens here is A, which is 8, will become the value of max. C, which is 7, will become the value of mid. And then finally, B, which is 6, will become the minimum value, right? So you can just change these numbers and try to trace where the program takes. So if you're able to follow the path of the execution of the program correctly, which means you have managed to understand the program. And then I want to make one thing clear. As of now, some of you may not have computers at home. Don't panic. At the moment, just try to understand the program in its entirety. That should be more than enough, right? So now let's move on to the next program, okay? Okay, the next program is, okay, print whether a given SE code is an uppercase or lowercase or others, right? So in terms of this particular program, just look at this. You have if as a body of if as a body of elif, and then if as a body of else. So this particular program is an example of a nested if, alright? So at times you can have just a body as a part of if. You may not have body in either elif or in else, or at times you may not have body for if, but you may have body for elif or not. So likewise, you can have various possible combinations. So all that will depend on the need or the demand of the program. So let's go and check out the next program, right? Print whether a given SE code is an uppercase or lowercase, right? So again, I would like to just mention this. Say, I hope you remember the SE codes. For the uppercase, for the lowercase, we'll start with the lowercase, 65 to 97. Sorry, it's 90. 90 is lowercase. Okay, is it uppercase or lowercase? Right, I think it's uppercase. Right, it's uppercase. And then 97 to 122 is lowercase. Okay, small letter or lowercase, right? Just leave a gap here. The characters in between 90 and 97 belong to other characters. The characters which are beyond 122 again belong to the other characters. The ASCII codes which are less than 65, again they belong to some other characters, right? But if the numbers of the codes fall within this range or this range, either it belongs to uppercase or it belongs to the lowercase, right? So in order to figure out this, say if a user randomly enters an ASCII code and then your program, is supposed to print a message saying whether it's uppercase, lowercase, or other. Okay, so we'll start the program. So first things first, we'll have a code like this. Code equals, it could be any number. Let's say we'll just keep it to 122. All right, 122, and then we'll just print the character of this code. You'll have to use this function of chr. Right? So we'll just run the program and check that it's working. Right. So there you go, 122. The character associated with this ASCII code is small and z. Small a to small z, big A to big Z. Right? So let's get started. Make some space and then I'll just get this little up. I hope you understood the question. Okay, so first things first, if the code is greater or equal to 1 or perhaps, okay, I think it's better if I write 97, okay? So if the condition is true, you cannot say just as yet that it belongs to a lowercase, okay? If it's greater than 97, it could be 122, but it could also be 123, okay? So we need to make sure that if it's greater than 97, and if it is less than 122 or equal to 122, then the character should be categorized as lowercase, right? So I press enter, and then again I have this code is less than or equal to 122, okay? Then I just use a variable message is equal to lowercase. So if this condition is true, which means it is greater or equal to 97, and then it gets here, and then if it's greater than 97, and again if it's less than 122, then the message has to be lowercase, right? However, I have here else, alright? I have here else. Now this time, message is equal to others or other. I'll just write other, which means if this condition is true, it's greater than or equal to 97. But if it's false, the statement of else will be executed, right? So, what do you mean when I say this is false? Which means it's not less than or equal to 122, which means it is greater than 122. If it's greater than 122, the condition becomes false. If the condition becomes false, the statement of else will be executed. So if the code is beyond 122, I'll have the message as other. Okay? It's not either uppercase or lowercase. It will belong to any other characters. Alright? So I now come here. Okay? Now if this condition is false, then I need to come here. Okay, if this is false, which means it is less than 97. If it's true, 97 or greater than 97. If it's false, then I come here. If it's false, the code is less than or equal to, less than 97, right? So if it's less than 97, I check this, okay, elif, right? I have here elif. If the code is less than or equal to 90, okay. Now take a closer look. I come here, okay. I come here, and then I check whether the moment you come here, which means it's either equal to 96 or less than 96. Okay? And then I check. However, at the same time, if the code is less than or equal to 90, if it's true, and then I again run another check. If the code is greater or equal to 65, then the message should be it's a uppercase. Okay? However, and then I have here else. Now look at this. It's a little confusing at the start, but it should be pretty easy. I hope you got this, till this point. If the condition is false, which means it's less than 97. Okay, I reach here. If it's less than 97, the condition is false. I reach here. Again, if it's less than or equal to 90, if it's equal to 90 or less than 90, if it's true, again I have another condition. If the code is greater or equal to 65, so if this condition is true, then it means the code lies in between the numbers of 65 and 90. And then I have the message of uppercase. However, if this is true, alright, if this is true, but if this is false, okay, so what happens? So if this condition is true, it's less than 97, right? Now, if it's not, then what happens here? The message is equal to, it has to be other. Okay? I hope you understood the program. If it's less than 90, okay? Right. Okay, and then finally I come here. Okay, I come here, and then you have else, right? So if this condition is false, what do you mean? If this condition is false, which means the code is either equal to 91 or greater than 91. So the code is in between 91 and 96, which means the message has to be the other, right? So you have something like this. So I hope you have understood the program. Well, run the program and check, right? And then you'll be able to understand better. And then finally, I would like to print, the message, okay? Okay, I'll print the message, or perhaps, okay, fine, no problem. Okay, now we'll try to work for all the possible combination, right? So 123. So if the value of code is equal to 123, which means, look at this condition is true. Okay, 123 is greater or equal to 97, the condition is true. If it's true, this block has to be executed, right? Now check this, 123 is less than or equal to 122, the condition is false. If it's false, it comes here, the other as the value of MSG should be printed. So we should get the answer as the other, right? So there you go. So the 123 ST code means the left curly parenthesis. Okay, so the message should be other. Other means it's neither lowercase or nor uppercase. And then we'll now check for the next combination, alright? Next possible value. Okay, say, now this time we'll just get inside the range for the lowercase. Now, if the value of code is 120, look here, is this condition true? Yes, it's true. And then 120 is greater or equal to 97. And then, if it's true, this block has to be executed, right? So again, check. 120 less than or equal to 122, the answer is true. So which means this statement will be executed. So you should get the answer as lowercase, right? So I run this. X is the lowercase character. So likewise, you'll have to check whether the program runs correctly for all the possible combination, right? So now the next step is we'll have 95, all right? We'll have 95 and check where the program takes us. 95 means it's between 90 and 97. So the correct message should be other, right? So I run the program and there you go. the character is the underscore, looks like it's underscore, and then you have the message as other. So if the code is if the code is 95 greater or equal to 97, the condition is false. If it's false, it comes here. As per the working of if elif, 95 is less than or equal to 90. Okay, is the condition true? It is 95 less than or equal to 90. The condition is false. If it's false, then you have just one statement as a body of else. If it's not true, then it has to be this. Hence we get this other. Okay, so you need to read the program again and again, and then we'll try to use the program for the code of 89, right? So when you run this, you have capital Y, which is uppercase. So let's check this. 89 greater or equal to 97, the condition is false. If it's false, it comes here. 89 is it less than or equal to 90? The condition is true. Okay, but it's not yet decided. There could be numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4. They all are less than 90, right? So the value of code is 89. The condition is true. At the same time, if the condition is true, it comes here. Is 89 greater or equal to 65? The condition is true. Hence, you get the uppercase message as uppercase as the value of MSG. And then finally, we'll try to make this particular statement work. So for that, perhaps if I enter 60, right? 60 and then run the program, I get the other, right? So if it's 60 is greater or equal to 97, the condition is false. Okay, comes here. Is it less than or equal to 90? Yes, 60 is indeed less than or equal to 90. Is it greater than 65? The answer is false. So which means this statement will be executed, right? So we made sure that the program works for all the possible combinations. At times your program may work for, let's say, one of these numbers, but it may not run correctly for the rest of the numbers. So the idea is to make sure that you get the program absolutely correct for all the possible combinations, right? So I would like to end the first part of the video.